I came to Alfred in 1973. Is this what's to work?
It's fine.
Okay, I came to Alfred in 1973. My teacher in Kansas City, who was Ken Ferguson and Victor Babu, they said, I want you to go to where we went. And they really liked this person by the name of Charlie Harder. And Charlie Harder was this really kind of amazing teacher that he could talk to anybody. These are stories that Ferguson said. He could talk to anybody. It was like, if it was a longshoreman or a politician, he could talk to anybody on any subject. And he just really wanted to wrap his head around what Clay could do. He was a really amazing person. He had to find somebody to teach foundation. So what he did is he got on a train and he went all the way to Chicago to see this person by the name of John Wood. He says, I'm going to go see John Wood's studio because if I don't like the way this person works, I don't know if they're going to work at Alfred. So Charlie was this person who just really tried to figure out what stuff was. He was not alive when I came here, but his wife was, and she was our next door neighbor down the road, and she was Gay Harder. She was the nicest lady in the world, and I really enjoyed talking with her. The thing that was probably most important about Alfred is there was a funny little book called Clay and Glaze for the Potter, and this is not working. Okay, all right. Clay and Glaze for the Potter, and everybody would have this book. So Alfred was this type of place that would take young students and they'd have to figure out how to do a lot of research on stuff. So when I came here, that changed. I was not very good at doing research. I love research now, but at that time I had trouble with reading and writing, and I wasn't a very good student. In fact, I was kicked out of graduate school when I was here because I got a bad grade in Dr. Lawrence's class, ceramic science for the potter, which was great. But then they put me back in, and because I guess I was okay. The really wonderful thing about being an artist is what I liked about Alfred is it allowed me to play with whatever I was interested in. And what I thought was really great about the town was how dumb the whole town was. This town was hilariously dumb. They had funny little buildings like the foundry that they're building. That became my wine ewer. The stack that goes up the side of Bin's Barrel, that became something to like pour liquid in and out of. There's a wonderful little room that had a little venturi in it. There was a great smokestack in there that came up and had little vents on it. Well, that became one of my pots. There was a really wonderful building on the corner that burned down, and it came up straight and had this really great little curve on the top of it. Well, that was on everybody's picture. And so what's kind of amazing about this thing is Charlie Harder had to figure out how to make things work for people. So he would go and get really, really great books. And there was a lovely lady in the library named Emily Van Scoyt, who was the librarian for the American Ceramic Society, also the librarian here. And she was amazing. She was an amazing lady. She could smoke a cigarette and her ashes wouldn't fall off the cigarette. I mean, that was pretty crazy. But and I really liked that part. But he bought these really great books for people, and it's and as a teacher, I go up to the library and I show these to students. It's the Eumorphropolis collection. There's 6 books. They're really big, and they're all this collection of pottery that was collected by this guy named George Eumorphropolis, and it had the whole history of China. What he was doing is, during that time, Hoover and all these people were buying Ming Dynasty vases for unbelievably expensive prices. Well, Eumorphropoulos is buying them too, and he said, well, if you buy this and we throw in this, we can throw in this stuff that we don't know what the hell it is. Well, that was the whole history of ceramics. It went all the way back to Han Dynasty, Tang Dynasty, and just really trying to figure things out. So I would say that when you start seeing Alfred, you have Binns, who's sort of like playing with the design from Sev, where they're trying to figure out how to put pieces together, but also playing with Tang Dynasty. Really great glazes. I'll talk about glazes in a minute. Really great glazes that were just trying to figure out how can we crush stones and make things out of them. So the Eumorphropoulos collection was basically what our Ceramics Monthly was. But you'd have these really great pots in there. And I remember going with Linda Sikora there, and there was like hi Linda Sikora over there. And we went through, there was this like really great page, and it had a whole bunch of bowls that were only halfway. And then all of a sudden they had this bowl that had a little bit more in it. And, I said, Linda, pick out the best bowl on this page. Well, she looked at it and said, I like the bowl with a little bit more. And I'd love to go to the British Museum and get the bowl out a little bit more and really look at it. Because I would say the bowl with a little bit more would be a really kind of great thing to have. So here you have that sort of study with the bowl with a little bit more going on. And lots of history. And everything's flying all around the place. It's really great. So when you look at this thing here, you're going to come across somebody by the name of Schreckengoss. And the Schreckengoss stuff, it says, what's he doing here? It's in the case. It's in the case. What I want you to remember in the Schreckengoss thing is look at the glaze. The plaster work is really amazing. How they are engineering plaster with Charlie and with Schreckengoss and with Wally Higgins, all those people, they're really trying to figure out what things are going on in the making of a pot. And I would say that the Alfred jar came through plaster. Plaster, to really figure out how a lid fit, it's really engineered, I think it probably came through plaster. And I think that Schreckengoss and Val, and those type of people all figured out and Bob Turner was a great mold maker and would figure out how to make something work together. So with the Schreckengoss pieces, I want you to think about is who made the glazes? My next door neighbor was a little crazy guy who made the glazes. Yeah, Clarence Merritt. Clarence Merritt would come around when I was a grad here, and he would just like drive us crazy. He'd borrow your bisqueware and he'd mix up the glaze with it. All of the stuff that was St. Patrick's Day favors were glazes that were designed by Merritt. All of Merritt's glazes, and Merritt was somebody who got a Binns medal, all of Merritt's glazes ended up in industry. None of those glazes were ever published. Merritt's glazes were during a time that was really kind of interesting. They were during the time when Frick just came out. Now, where did Frick come from? Well, Frick came from, you probably had Fritz in Mesopotamia, had stuff. But World War II, when they went to Germany after World War II, they went into a factory that was a glass factory, and they took all of the data from the glass factory out of it and basically used it to set up something called ferro-frit. So when you have water blue, which is Wayne Higbie's water blue, it's not his water blue. It was invented by Marion Fosdick and was in the American Ceramic Society trying to figure out how to use frits. So that we have all this type of stuff, just technology stuff that's going on that's sort of like really playing with a lot of different things. So, we both came from the same place. We both came from Kansas City, where we were trying to like figure out how to build stuff And this was sort of a place where we kind of came for different reasons. I wanted to know who Ferguson's teachers were. And Babu was a crazy guy. I love Victor Babu. But that doesn't say anything about the teachers here. It doesn't. It just says what this school is. So, do you have a question for me? Ask me a question. You ask me a question. Want me to ask you a question?
Yeah. When did you start glazing more like quilt patterns?
Oh, that's really great. I had a little bowl that was a little cylinder cut really pretty nice, and it wasn't very big. And a certain friend of mine said, "Can you make me one of those little bowls?" And he glazed one of my bowls. Wayne glazed one of my bowls. And so that was sort of an interesting thing. But the other thing that happened is, when you're given a gallery in New York City that has Avery, Max Beckman, Stuart Davis, all those type of people, and you're like trying to figure out how to get painting into the vocabulary of clay, and what color is water? Water could be any color if you're going by Milton Avery. And so I just start putting things together. Or when I'm out in Aspen and I'm seeing a really beautiful mountain, and all of a sudden a bunch of clouds go over it, and all of a sudden all the color changes. That sort of like makes me, that would say how I would go for it. Yeah. Do I know what I'm doing? I don't care. I have nonchalance down to the T. I just, whatever it is, it's going to be right. I've never made a mistake. I just always make mistakes.
When you walked into the show for the first time, you walked through, did anything surprise you, or you see it? You've seen it all before, most of it. Did you see it again for the first time?
There was a little bit of rearranging at the last minute for the show. They didn't have a guy who went to RISD. Jonathan Hobbs. They didn't have a Jonathan Hobbs piece. And we had a piece that was a Jonathan Hobbs piece. And it's in the very front thing there. And what I liked about it, he was 3D printing the glaze, and then he pours the clay in a cardboard cylinder tube. And then he fires in the cylinder tube. Oh, what's so great about that piece is the thermodynamics of the glaze basically warps the piece. So like if I have a piece of clay and I put the glaze on it, it's going to craze, it's going to go like that. It'll slow in. If it's going to shiver, it's going to pop up. Well, he had that all figured out in that piece. And so that was sort of a nice thing. But the other thing about it is there's some people in here that I really have enjoyed working with. I really, having Doug Jack here for the little bit of time he was here, he's a funny guy. And I like the way working with him. And his piece really has a wonderful time of multiple age. Like his work can go anything from being really young to really old. And then at the end of the hallway down there is like Walter's big piece. It's like, Walter, just glaze something. Just glazing. Get glazing. That guy goes through so much glaze, it's just really pretty amazing. And then the most important thing is that person right there. Ann Currier. She basically did some really subversive stuff. She did this thing in junior pottery where it says she basically got some glazes from maybe Val. Were they yours?
It was a sheet that probably of glazes back probably 10 years to the early 80s.
Yeah.
When we had the big energy crisis.
Oh yeah.
And so Val, from the way I understood it, Val gave his glaze calc class a whole bunch of cone 5, 7 glazes
Yeah,
to bring down, because the difference between 5 to cone 10 and cone 7 significantly with gas and propane is about a third of what it would cost.
right.
So I had those glazes, and by the 85, 86 when I was here, nobody was concerned about energy anymore.
Right.
Really. And so my junior class hated me because I set up this regimen of here's how, just follow instructions,
Yeah.
here's how you're gonna do it. And we took every one of their glazes and we fired it in oxidation and reduction
Yes, and with lots of colors.
with lots of colors, and they were pissed off at the first, but then when they saw the results come out, when you saw the results, it was amazing.
It was amazing.
And what one last thing
Yeah.
to like down memory lane. Val stole a couple, or let me say, he removed them from the glaze lab. Like Val uses a lavender satin glaze.
Yes, yeah.
Came out of that class.
Oh, and the green glaze.
Yeah, candy apple green, we call that candy apple.
Yeah, candy apple green. But let's talk about Val a little bit more. Because Val was, the wonderful thing that Val had that I never had as a glaze cow teacher was poetry. Val understood how to look at a glaze and really give it credit for what it could be in many different ways. And it's just like so great, it's just like, how do I take this and really make that thing work? So,
But you to this day, still use some of those
I use all those.
glazes, and what was great about it, they had a range from cone 6 to cone 10.
Yeah, and I just fire them right up to cone 10. I get them hot and vitrified, make that all happy. I don't worry about it. Yeah, and if they want to coagulate, I let them coagulate. That's all good. Yeah. So, yeah,
I'll say a few things,
You
and
say
then, we can open it up to
Yeah.
questions. How's that? Okay, all right.
Just now.
I probably won't be able to sit, but I'll start sitting. The first thing you said is I came here in 1973, and I was born in 1972. So that was interesting.
You're just a spring chicken.
And we had the same teacher in undergrad, so that's an interesting connection.
Yeah, right.
So I came to Alfred the first time in 2012 as a sabbatical replacement for Linda. Linda invited Shoko and I up here. I to teach and Shoko to work in the studio for a semester. And so that was our first Alfred experience. And it really lit a different kind of fire inside me that I hadn't felt before. I had lunch with John, I think, probably every day, literally.
That happens.
Yeah. And you were super generous to include us in that lunch and introduce us to everybody and tour us around and really see what could happen. So I was here to teach, but I gave myself some assignments as well. At the time, I'd been working at Cone 3 and didn't really know a lot about it. And I had some technical issues, and Bill Cardy helped me out at lunch, and we did all kinds of tests and ran clay bodies through instruments I can't even name in engineering. There was one of the old ram presses that Wally Higgins, I've seen pictures of him using, was over in engineering, and I got it out. It was basically stowed away, and always wanted to use a ram press, so figured that out. And Nick Moen was a student at the time. He made a project on that. There was a third one. I had a third assignment. Oh, I made a great big, well, to me, it was a great big slip cast mold. I never made anything that large before, but I'd never been in a space with a great big plaster room. So those were the 3 assignments. gave myself. I wanted to talk about the work that's in here, if that's all right, and it's really hard to not. One, it's made to do that, right? This piece was made just before we came back to Alfred in 2015. And this is an example of the concrete work I was doing at the time. I've gone in and out of picture series. The first one started when I was in graduate school, and then I left it. And usually I leave work because I don't have another question, and then I'll come back to it when something arises. So this was a return to the picture series, and then I left that before coming here, and then actually have made a series of them here at Alfred. I guess throughout all the series, none of them are thrown. This is all slab built, and then I'm working with this communication between the spout and the handle. This one came through a series. This was still when I was working with symmetry, and the latest series was more asymmetrical. This is a form. I guess both of these actually happened when we returned from COVID. So COVID was a time when everything kind of reset. So when I came back to the studio, my studio's in the building. So when the building shut down, so did my studio practice. But when I came back to it, a series of what I'm calling bowls came out, where I was really working on, I worked up a series of what I felt were strong shapes for the foot, and thinking about how something would move up into space from these shapes. So this is an example of that. The main one I want to talk about is this dented cylinder. And when I returned from COVID, I actually started coiling these tall cylinders and flaring out the top. I was interested in a top hat, a hat upside down, and that's where I started with nothing else. It was a form that I saw in my head, but I had a series of those in the studio, and it came out of nowhere. One evening, I went to one, probably because I wasn't happy with it, and I put up a board next to it, and I slumped it, and everything changed then, and I started working on the dented cylinder. What really came to me is not the visual. It's suddenly everything made sense to what I was feeling inside in that interruption of COVID. And this is something we all felt, we all experienced. So it came from that disruption. And as I worked on it, I realized actually it's a gut punch. And COVID was a gut punch for many people. And it was tied to other personal things, but what I'm interested in is how I believe this form connects to all of you. We know what a gut punch is. We know, some of us know the physical gut punch, but we know the emotional gut punch. And I wasn't interested in the work having that kind of heaviness. I think that it's there. I'm going to touch this, but I'm interested in this, that there's a inherent resilience in the form and in us. So I have, when I was making these, I've made many now, and even I had hired, one point I had hired Ben Deutsch to throw a bunch of cylinders, and then I proportioned them and everything, and we probably made 40 of them, and I bent every one of them in a different way, because I was so curious what the dent could be. And so some things that I've learned about the dent is, if the dent interrupts the rim, it doesn't work. Almost like it's deflated. The idea just loses its sense. There's something about maintaining the rim. It's okay that it warps, reacts to the dent, but if the dent went through the rim, it became animated in a certain way where all the things I was interested in were lost. So the dents have been round dents and baseballs and basketballs and bats and corners of things. And I really believe this straight kind of through the midsection dent is the most potent. When I made this one, our custodian at the time came through and oh, you just made one of my dented garbage cans. And I had another colleague walk through and was like, oh, the old dented cylinder. I've had my good buddy John refer to it twice as a cigarette. But that's, it's none of those things. It's far too powerful. It does require you to confront it and then just be open to that feeling. I find it very difficult to not become this when I'm in front of it. So some things about that I dealt with, like how that showed up in the studio. The way that I work, everything is linear and things grow on top of something else. I don't know what this grew on top of, my experience, but the way that it showed up has me very, well, for a long time, I didn't know if I could trust it. It showed up in a way that was so unfamiliar that I've shown this one, there were 3 in a faculty show, and that's it. They exist in my studio and my garage. They're not public yet. So that's something that I'm thinking about. Wow. Maybe I'll leave it at that.
Well, you talked about that one so nice. I got a case over there that's behind that big one behind it. Well, we went to the farmer's market and there was a big tomato that was about this big, and it had this really great underneath carriage on it. It was really great. And so I said, oh, I want that tomato. And it said, you can't have that tomato. It's the best tomato ever. And so it's like, you can't. No, I have to have it. So we got the tomato, we took it home, and then I started making this tomato series, which is wow, yeah, the undercarriage of this tomato is really undercarriage. And so I just wanted that tomato. And then, but stuff comes from funny places, it's like, I just fly all over the place. You did a nice job, big boy.
Any questions? Yes.
I just want to say that I've looked at this case a lot, and I'm not sure that I share your emotional reaction to it. To me, it's formally incredibly beautiful. And I think I just want to invite everyone here to sit where I'm sitting and look at it from this angle. You can see how it wants to fly. The bottom of it is curved, so it's sitting on these 2 points
we had before we had the kiln room out there,
Yes.
that is a nice kiln room. We had a car kiln that would open up the door, and so on the top shelf of the car of the wheat fire, we had the fire back to back because we had no indoor kiln room. So we were trying to get the thing cooled down fast enough. So I decided to Carol Rohrbach built the kiln. So Carol, let's open the car kiln door on this wood kiln, and there's this really great soda bottle on the very top. And when we open that kiln, that white heat, it just bowed to the heat. And there's so many pots that are from Beeshead, from Sugar Rocky, that are basically just bowing to the firebox. And there's something about temperature and about movement and all those type of things that are going to be open for you that you get to play with later on are going to be, it's going to be great. You're going to have a great series. Okay, Ann, let's go.
My question is directed to you.
Yeah.
Because what I really like listening to you to address this rocker piece is there's so many things for me that you're tying in formal, what we would term formal, which is a term in critique and conversation I really hate. Or I put it aside because there's another thing about the emotional, about other factors, and then how do you separate what would be categorized as formal and conceptual and material.
Yeah.
All right. And so I feel like you tapped on several of those. But I'm going to go to your question about John, which has, and we know John's work is this, and I love your use of the word quilt, crazy quilt, think of color. And the elephant that piece of yours is wearing is brown. And I'm far enough away that I don't know what the surface texture is. So to me, those elements of, you talked about shape, and you applied volume, interior, which goes, I think, to your internal, emotional subject matter of this work. But I'd like to hear you talk about, you made a decision to put it into a particular kiln with a particular surface, and now that you see this out in the public arena, we now have access to that. So I want to know what your access to is in regard to surface. This has been a long, drawn-out question, isn't it? But your reaction and your intent and expectation, going down that rabbit hole with color and surface and how they become part of the subject or content of this object.
Well, I don't. So I'm not a practitioner of separating out formal from conceptual, but the decision here of using a dark iron clay and having experience with the train kiln and knowing that I would get this dark palette, it gives it the weight that I want it to have, the visual weight. Another thing that I've learned with these is none of them are, one was glazed and then I knew that wasn't it. Part of the reason is because I want this surface to be this surface it's underneath. I want this surface to be that surface. And I want it to be the clay. So knowing those things and having experience with a wood kiln led to this. So there's only 3 that are this size. Many of them are smaller. And I actually wanted more dark, more big, more dark, more head weight. So figured out a way to make it bigger.
There's also the atmosphere on this.
Yeah, and to me, I feel like that is exciting in the sense that it's not maybe plain across here, but I don't get into the ooh and ah of like, oh, this was in a wood kiln and all of that. I try not to carry those kinds of ideas forward either. The atmosphere is doing, it accentuates this crease here. It allows this large plane actually to be plain because it's not plain. Like there's a blush here, I haven't gotten to a place where they are like gas fired to see it as a plane. The thought of that doesn't interest me.
Yeah, but you know, this shape that's on the side of it that's moving around is how I learned how to glaze my pots.
Yeah.
Because it's like seeing how atmosphere flew on a wood fire piece was just kind of amazing. There's a shape, so I'd use those shapes to sort of like make sense out of it. But just the simplicity of it just being clays. It's just, I'm a piece of clay. You know, the lobby of Carter Hall used to be these wonderful Nubian bricks. And after George Floyd, they painted them all white, which is sort of interesting, where the clayness of the Nubian bricks are like taken out of context and whitened to, yeah. I mean, when they built that building, it was all this beautiful Nubian bricks. And clay has no sense. Clay has no sense of what color is. You know, it's like, if they wanted that building to be white, they would have built it all in porcelain. Not in this beautiful color of Nubian bricks.
John. It's brutalist, you know, and it celebrates material.
Yeah.
And what happens, and I think to go back to you, that you addressed, because I agree, I think it is what it, forget formal and conceptual image, but your language and what you pointed out, like to say the weight, and it's like it becomes a point for me to take us to another place that maybe Megan or somebody else doesn't see, and the blush of the firing. These are all visual clues, so we take visually what's there as a place to get to this other internal place that then connects with a feeling or an emotion or a personal connection that you may have. So I thought for me, it was important to hear two things. One, that you use technology information process that you already knew, and then your use of the word weight. And then and then also that it was all one, the clay body and the color. So to me, that gets the density. If it's chipped, this thing is all the way through this color. So I'm just sharing with you things that, I'm sitting way back here and I couldn't get there, but I think it's an amazing object, sculpture. It's a sculpture. It's not so, it moves outside. It has contained notions of containment. That is something that's very close to me when I talk about my work. So anyway, I'm done. But thank you.
You mentioned, this is for both of you, how you started pieces, because Matt mentioned that you get one kind of idea, you stack on top of it. Where do your ideas come from?
You go. I think what you're saying is when I mentioned that usually my ideas grow linearly. Yeah, so they respond to either what has just happened or what is happening now. So I see my processes growing in a linear way. So when something shows up suddenly, I'm cautious, apprehensive, all that. But where does the idea come from? It'd be hard to put a starting point on it, not to dodge your question, but as one works and looks and thinks, and there isn't, oh, my idea starts from that. For me, I see it. Now, there's moments where things go dark, like when the school year starts, because I have to think about other things. And then, but usually even then, suddenly I'm teaching and I'm right back in my work. So, yeah, try not to dodge your question, but there isn't I go here or I go.
So is it when you try not to think of that?
No, I think it's when I'm just fully engaged in my life that it's connected. It's connected there. Like my making life started so long ago. It's hard to separate out an idea. So I wouldn't be faced with, somebody wouldn't give me a problem like an assignment and then move forward. I might give myself an assignment, but that's already based on a notion, an experience. So yeah, where do ideas come from? This is my struggle with students. I don't know what to make. Holy shit! Like, don't know what to make. Like, there's might be a problem here if you want to be a maker. Like a musician will, even when they don't know what to play, suddenly they're in a scale, or they're just tuning. They're tuning. So in ceramics, it's as soon as that ball of clay is in your hand, it gets those things.
Wow, that's great.
Where do your ideas?
Well, my ideas come from systems, just all kinds of systems. Like for a long time, I would roll out slabs and put up a cylinder and just let them, then just cut them, fold them, re-erase them, or flute them, blah, 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 blah. And it's not a problem. But now I have Ben, and Ben, we go and we buy like a ton of clay, and then Ben rolls it out on the slab. Now it's like having sheets of paper that are just really great, that are sort of like, they have like, I just kind of like move through. And I would say patchwork quilt is really kind of important to me right now because I love sewing, and I always take a basket full of garbage and just start sewing it together, just like with straight seams, and then iron it, straight seam, iron it, and then all of a sudden I can make a quilt out of it. And I have a team of people that I work with that are really important. Or I've had Tyler and I have worked together for almost 16, 17 years. And we just bounce off each other. His dad was a pianist for a jazz band, and Tyler's basically, he's just jamming away. And then recently I've had Ben, and Ben, he's really good at minutia. He makes the best minutia in the world. So like, Ben, you do minutia. And then Tyler, he has this really wonderful stride in the glaze.
What is minutia?
Oh, minutia, you'll figure that one out. Ben, what's the difference? Minutia is, I don't have a definition. It's just like little pieces of like, the minutia. It's like, the world's full of minutia.
Tiny details.
Huh? Tiny details.
Really small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Granular.
Right. Almost granular. And then when it comes to glazing the things, I have no idea what I'm going to do with glazing. But I never, ever, ever, ever execute a piece. I think that I don't believe in capital punishment, and I'm not going to do it to my ceramics. I'm going to have a conversation as I go along, and things always sort of like change. Right, Ben? Right, Tyler? Yeah, it works. And so we just like bounce off of things, and we just go for it. And sometimes we have to do triage just to get something into a kiln really quick. We just have a really great time with it, and just. Yeah, and and I don't worry about things. It's like, I just keep on going, you know. All colors go together, some work harder. I don't have any color theory. That's the only color theory I have. Yeah. Huh?
I was sitting here, I thought, no, I'm not gonna ask the question, but
What is it?
it's hopeless to control. You know, we're all here in a sense, this may not be true
It's not.
exactly, but we're here because Alfred is the ceramic kind of mecca. So everybody is here for a kind of ceramic reason.
Yeah.
And so the question is, what's the problem with ceramics? What do you hate about ceramics? What don't you like? How is that motivational if it is? What's the problem with it? You know, we're all sort of already drank the Kool-Aid. So where are we going with this? What's the problem?
Well, I would say, going back to probably the way that the school was set up, we need to have clay as the heart of it, and we need to have printmaking, photo, we need to have painting, everything, because we can't do it just only with clay. So there was printmaking was like, there's so many things that we add to ceramics. So trying to figure out how that language is all going to go together into the new art market is going to be really kind of exciting. And there's nothing about the stuff that I feel is awful. The muckiness of it, you can deal with that. You just celebrate muck. If you want the thing to be precise, you deal with it. You celebrate precision. If you want something to have like a carefree scene, you play with it. I would say, looking at the time that I've been here and what I was able to do in New York City with showing work and trying to like make that stuff happen, and what our students have done, I think that right now there's a lot of really great possibilities, and I wouldn't worry about it. And you know, I just get back to my studio and start making things because it's like that's what I got to do.
So there's no point in worrying about the problem.
Well,
Whatever the problem is. There's no point, I should ask you about, there must be something that you dislike about ceramics.
no,
There's nothing.
no.
And so that also means that whatever you need to do, there's a way around it. Where
Yeah.
you have to do it in ceramic.
Right. That's because I went here and you gave me permission to do whatever I wanted to do.
That's not true.
Huh? You gave me permission to do whatever I want to. So like, how can I make a mistake if I'm doing what I want to?
Good question, John. You just asked a really good question. You know, that's probably one of the greatest questions that I've heard from all of you. So, yeah.
It was your fault.
You're
You're the one who was sitting in my studio talking about a dump pot with me and like trying to figure out what it was. It was great. Yes, Andy.
I didn't get in your sophomore class.
Yeah.
And so I did video. And one of the things that I tell my students is they need to have high sensitivity to initial conditions. And that's one of the things I learned from ceramics, in that you have to come to the clay, you have to come to the glaze. But I think the problem with clay is, as an electronic artist, I can hit record and I got it. You guys have to press record, let it dry, press, put it bisque, press record, let it cool, take it out, get the glaze on there, press record, and so I'm glad I'm not doing that. Because I know how you guys do it.
It's really, but the time in between that is what's really great because then you can recollect. And I remember sitting on the porch with Bob Turner and we were eating little apples, it was fall, and he was like talking about Gertrude Stein and said, yes, I'm reading this Gertrude Stein and I just somebody wants me to make a Bob Turner pot again, and I can't make the Bob Turner pot again. So I said, I will recollect the pot. I will recollect it and recollect it and recollect it and recollect it. And then he read to me Gertrude Stein. A rose is a rose is a rose is a rose. Each time he said that, we were recollecting a rose. There are so many, that moment that is in between those things are magical. And Andy, you should maybe enjoy those.
But Andrew, I think, set up the program in a sense. You know, it was interesting the way you described it. Because you can punch this and this will happen, you punch this and so. And then there are those artists like John who want the problem of solving it in a totally different way. So it's a solving it through a material, then you have to wait, then you have to do something else, then you have to do something else, and then you have to do something else. And that sort of strategic intervention into materials is a ceramic's heaven.
Yeah.
That sense of process. And so that's a little different, although I'm sure that your art has a sense of process to it.
Excuse me. It's also hell. Absolute hell. I'm sorry. You know, I'll get my term here in October. But what I really like about your analogy is I wish ceramics was more akin to that pressing the button once. And it might have something to do with why I use electric kilns. Because that time between, did I get the glaze on big enough? I told my students, you guys, you have to be very, very brave to do ceramics because of all those buttons that you have to push. And what can go wrong, whether it's the sloping, whether you can name all these things that go wrong, it's all and then it's like going to the doctor and have a test on a Friday, and then you have to wait till Monday to get them back.
Yeah.
You know, so you can tell I'm getting emotional. But I think that's what I hate about ceramics. It's a goddamn time thing, and you have to just succumb.
And
I'm not good at succumbing to a lot, as my colleagues will know. And so,
you won't remember this.
probably,
But
yes.
There's a ramp, the ramp hallway by where they do the ceramics for non-majors.
Yeah.
I was coming up that ramp when I was a student, it was probably 1988. And you were coming down that ramp with one of your sculptures on a cart. And you said, stop, stay away, get away, I'm coming down, get out of the way, get out of the way. And I'm just like, wow, that's amazing. I always remember,
Traffic control.
but what was happening on that cart and what I was going to do to it, walking by it. But that's remarkable. Whatever it was you were doing.
I was probably, who knows what I was doing. I do remember that you were the first in a class of 100 freshmen. I do remember that. But anyway, I'm sorry. But yeah, you guys, if you feel anxiety and I'm there with you, I don't have this role. When it comes out of the kiln, somebody once asked me, how would I define success? And I said, when it comes out of the kiln, that's, and all the pain, I've never had kids, but all that pain of going through that moment when it comes out of the kiln and it worked. When it doesn't work, it's kind of like, it's not a failure. I hate that word, but it's, what do I have to do different so I don't have to go through this anxiety? And I think anybody who says ceramics doesn't create high levels of anxiety when you give it up to the kiln gods is delusional. I'm sorry.
Sorry, John.
I had a question about your work, and I found something interesting where you were describing. You said before that a lot of the cylinders that you made previously are stored away in your studios or in your garage, and you said that they haven't reached the public eye yet. Do you think they ever will reach public light, or will they stay hidden?
I think I'm taking care of them as if, maybe they will. We'll see. I'm not hiding them. I just don't have the opportunity. I feel like they even represent something different within my work. So to find out how that goes out,
This reminds me of seeing the public eye. We had a show for NSECA, and it was we had to put together a faculty show in Fossey Nelson, and Wayne had bulls, but he also had these really amazing porcelain pieces that I see in the studio. I said, Wayne, we have to have the porcelain pieces at Alfred for this show. And Wayne is the type of person that really is very careful on how he puts things out of the market. And I sort of like pushed him to put it in there a little bit sooner than probably the market probably asked for. But it was, so just knowing when something needs to go on the market is going to be, is generous for the piece, because then the piece has a little bit of provenance and it can really has a little bit more time. You thought a little bit more about it. You're just being generous to it, to the piece.
While you were making all of those, did you use the same clay or did you change your clays throughout?
Different clays, different temperature. Yeah, working with color more through the clay working with color through clay rather than glaze. Ben, did you?
I did, yeah. I have a rather somewhat dull museum type question. John gave some good tidbits of hints referring to some of the other characters that are in this space. And I wanted to hear from you, Matt, about your own connection to this history, what it was like coming here, what you thought Alfred was. I mean, you mentioned a little bit about coming in 2012, but what is your connection to some of the other people that are represented here?
Right. A few different things I could. John and other people always bring up, this idea of, I wish you could have met Robert Turner. So that makes me really curious why people say that. Maybe I'll answer this and loop back. I've been thinking about something from Wayne's question too. So in 1995, I was a senior at Kansas City, and there was a celebration for Ken Ferguson, my teacher, and this guy showed up. I didn't know who he was.
I didn't either.
And so that was my first time that I met John. And I didn't really meet John because it's my nature to sort of be over there. And but I watched him, and I was curious about him. But more than that, my main point was it was a moment of like looking at someone's career and looking at Kansas City Arts Institute as an institution and a history. And then I find myself here now, and we're doing a similar thing, right, with this exhibition. So I have a lot of thoughts about that, because I'm not going to say I still feel like the student, but I still feel on the young side of it. And even though I'm in my 50s, that's crazy. I'm not on the young side of it. But one thing I mentioned to you when we were in our office is, maybe the history would show up. The history of this faculty would show up better through the MFA collection. And we were talking about its future. So back to Wayne's question about, it made me think of, I don't know if I want to call it a caution, but just what I'm feeling now, and after Margaret Carney's lecture and this exhibition, and we're in a room with many, many, many people of our future, is maybe I just want to shed light on that let's not make this about the last 125 years. Margaret Carney said at one point, she showed a picture of Paul and a picture of Jason, and then said, I know other people teach here, but I don't know them. So did not say anything about the other faculty. I was probably the only one in the room that, like, that hurt. I've been here 10 years, and okay, that's not a super long time, but I've dedicated myself to this place. I've had 7 teachers in my 3 schools of ceramics. 5 of them went to Alfred. So I think there was a little piece of the Binns X factor left out. And that's fine, but it got me just thinking about this moment of, let's not look back. Like, I want all the students to come here, know your history, know what it is to work here. But let's look forward, and let's do it in a way that we haven't reached the best.
That we have one.
We have not reached our best yet. As an institution, as a program.
My mind was going with the question, because being bound up by history and a certain expectation is problematic. It just to some degree. So how you ground yourself in the knowledge that's here, and then how do you use that as a kind of stepping stone to what you don't know, and then you're free to embrace what you don't know and say, I don't know, but I need it. So we're somewhere hovering in a certain. There are a lot of other elements of maybe what I think is the problem with ceramics, but that's for another time.
When I came here, my friend Victor Babu, who was my teacher, who's your teacher too, Victor Babu would tell me stories about this really, really amazing pot. It was in some Armenian museum, and he would talk about this pot, the volume that it would have, just this, and he would just elaborate how wonderful this pot was. Now, I am the mascot for Scholl's Library. I've been to museums around the world. I have never, ever seen this pot that Victor Babu told me about. Victor Babu conjured up an absolute fib. His conjuring was amazing. Let's make fibs. Let's really conjure up some really outrageous stuff and just really make it. And that's what I can do. And you can do the same thing. We're a bunch of liars. We're artists. We are dealing with the artificial. This is cool. All right. Is that it?
You can't change your F words. You're not a fibber. What you conjure up is fantasy.
Oh, fantasy.
Fantasy. And you have an imagination. And you're able to pull all the stuff that you've seen that comes from fabric and whatever, and you conjure it up, and you fantasize what it could be. And then you make it. So I love what you said, but I wanted to digress from the word fib, because you are not a liar.
Oh.
You are not a liar. But your fantasies, and you and I have had conversations, your fantasies are Star Trek. You and anybody you're out there.
Yeah.
And isn't it fantastic?
And you and I, you are too, and we've had some great fantasies together. Yeah.
So make fantasies.
Right. Okay. Good. All right. I think Ben, we did a good job.
Well, I did want to I knew the turnout would be this big. I mean, this is ceramics in Alfred, right? So I wanted to encourage, like, let's keep it up through all the next 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Next week there's a lecture by Chris Staley instead of a gallery museum talk, and it's in Ben's room C. And if all of you show up, we're going to be in the hallway. It'll be so full. But that's at 4:30 next Thursday. But yeah, let's keep up.
And then the week after that, who is next? Ellie, can you remember?
Wayne and
Is it Wayne and Ann next?
Oh my goodness.
So you guys will get your turn real soon. You guys get to go.
You're a tough act to follow.
But listen, I just want to say, I mean, we've gone sort of our time allotted. The idea is to keep them sort of short, sharp, and sweet. But I just want to say, my little museum heart is really tingling. I feel like this is like a housewarming party for me. When I had a vision of like coming, working at a museum, it wasn't so much like the collections downstairs as it was this kind of thing that I was really imagining. And it's just, warms me to know I can see you all here and to have all this interest. So thanks so much for coming. We'll see you elsewhere next week, and then back here again in 2 weeks. And please thank my wonderful guests.